In the context of open government, when you do citizen engagement and you have these dialogues with the public, I think one of the things that I know that I learned from my own experience in the federal agency is putting up the tools is the easy part, okay? It's really sitting down and framing the discussion that you want to have, which is, you know, what is the purpose of it? And then thinking about the 3 or 4 or 5 at the most questions that you want people to respond to. And how you frame those questions is really going to dictate the kind of response that you get. The other piece of this is, so you can define your questions, correct? You know, you can define the questions you're trying to answer with any kind of these collaboration projects. But you also want to make sure that you're reaching out to the people who care about it. In the case of like the National Dialogue for Environmental Information that we had at EPA, even before we had the dialogue, we had a huge communication outreach plan associated with it. So what you want to do is actually tell people this is going on and give them the expectations even before the dialogue begins. And again, part of it is you don't want to throw these things out just to do them. You actually want to show the value, and that means framing the right questions, figure out what you're trying to achieve in it, and then reaching out to the appropriate audiences. You have to define what those are. You want to be open, but you also want to make sure that there are communities out there that know about this that would be very interested in this. In my mind, having been through this a couple times back when I was a CIO at EPA, there are sort of maturity levels with your interaction with the citizens and the public. So, you know, at first, you know, you're building, it's really building trust. And so at first, your first dialogues and open discussion with the public might be, let people just, you know, you want to put out a discussion item and you want to make sure that you're perfectly, or that you've captured exactly what kind of information that you're looking for, but you also have to recognize that the public is going to use this as an opportunity to talk about whatever they want to talk about anyways. And that's okay because you're building this notion of trust. The second part of maturity really is the next time you do it, there's really a lot more active participation with the agency, at least from a moderation standpoint. So in this case, you're having, there's the external community and the public or citizens are blogging about ideas, but maybe now you're moving around some of those ideas so they start to make sense. And then what you have is, as you're sort of building this trust that's out there, people don't think they're deleting my comment. No, you're not deleting. You're simply moving it so it's adding value to the other discussions out there. It's really building starting to build a voice is really what I'll say is the next part of maturity, which is not only is an agency or a department sort of moderating from a organization standpoint of ideas or comments, but now it's actually answering some questions that are out there. And then hopefully, you know, agencies will get to the point where there's a lot of trust built with the public that maybe even the agency kind of gets to the maturest level, which is not only organizing and participating in the moderation, but there's a real voice coming out. Maybe not just a voice that says, here's where you find that factual information, but maybe there's a discussion that says, you know what, these things are we notice that we're finding trends here, which is leading us to think the following. And it may not be a decision, but at least it's showing people that the agency is listening and they're starting to analyze some of these things, and they're giving a glimpse of some of the things they're thinking of, and that's where you build real trust. When we think about open government, I think that, and you know, I'm a very big proponent of sort of engagement, collaboration, making data available for all the right reasons. But one of the things I think that we need to do is make sure that as we're looking at open government, that we're actually making sure that we're doing the right things, that we're just not throwing things over just to do them because they're either fun or they're mandated to do or something like that. We're actually looking at the kind of information that we're getting, not just from a content perspective that informs the decision, but also from a process perspective for open government. We need to see, are we reaching new audiences? Are they the same people? And it's okay if they're the same people, but those are indicators that maybe we don't have good communication outreach. Are we targeting the right audience? Are we getting what we need to get out of this? So we need to see who's responding, how, you know, we need to look at the data about open government to figure out, you know, are these discussions hitting the right audiences? Same goes for if you look at sort of data. So the data that you put out there, so you're going to make data available to the public, you do that for a reason. You do it because you want to make sure that the data gets out and it's used because the government spends a lot of time collecting data and hopefully making sure it's good quality data, and you want to make sure it's used. But you also want to get the information back. You want to know how people are using the data. So there's this continuous loop to say, not only do I want to do open government, I want to make my data available, I want to have good, productive citizen engagement. Well, I actually want to measure to figure out, am I getting the value out of this? And then how does that actually inform and improve my business or my mission?